Alright, in this video we're going to review some graphing of linear equations. Remember, a linear equation means that when you graph it, it'll make a straight line, and an equation will always be linear if all the variables are first degree. In other words, if all the exponents are 1. So let's start with this first example here. I got y equals 3x minus 5. So this is kind of the best case scenario when you're graphing because this equation is already in slope-intercept form for us. So we don't have to do anything special to graph it. We can simply just look at the intercept and the slope and go from there. So if you look here, I start with the intercept. I got 3x minus 5. So negative 5 is the y-intercept. So that's where it crosses the y-axis. So I'm going to count down from the origin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that is my y-intercept because it's just the constant term, and then the number that's been multiplied by x, that's my slope, or the m in my y equals mx plus b. So if it's y equals mx plus b, m is the slope, so in this case that is 3. So just remember, when you're thinking of a slope, even if it's a whole number, it can be kind of useful to think of it in fraction form, in rational form. So like think of it as being 3 over 1. So then starting from this point I already have graphed, I'm going to go up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1, and so on. So remember, slope is rise over run. So up 3, right 1, up 3, right 1. You could also go down 3, left 1. But if the slope's positive, then it'll go up from left to right. So you just need to graph a few points and then draw in a line. Now this line technically goes on forever, which obviously I can't draw an infinite line, so I'm just going to put arrows on the end of it. If you want to draw a better line than I did, you can see mine's not super straight, use a straight edge, but for sketching purposes this one works out okay. Now another option you always have when you're graphing any sort of equation is to make an XY chart. So suppose like you're trying to graph this equation, but I can't, it's, I don't remember slope-intercept form. You can always just make an XY table and plug points in. So and you just pick out random points, whatever points you want to. Like if I want to put 0 in for x, if I put 0 in for x, y equals 3 times 0 minus 5, or 0 minus 5, or y equals negative 5. So I've got the point 0, negative 5 I would graph. If I put in x equals 1, okay, I get y equals 3 times 1, or 3 minus 5. 3 minus 5 is negative 2, so I get the point 1, negative 2, which you can see is already a point I've got graphed. Or if like I put in the point 2, if I put 2 in for x, y equals 3 times 2, which is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. So 2, 1 is also a point I already have graphed. So an XY table is always an option, but if it's in slope-intercept form, that's probably the easiest way to graph it. Okay, so looking at this next example, this one's a little different because it's not in slope-intercept form. But if remember something's not in slope-intercept form, you can put it in slope-intercept form just by getting the y by itself. So if I have 2y plus 5x equals 8, if I want to isolate the y, that'll just take a couple steps. So step 1 is I want to subtract 5x from both sides. So those are going to cancel. So then I've got 2y equals, I can't combine those together because they're not like terms, so I'm just going to leave them separate, negative 5x plus 8. And the last step is to divide by 2. So when you divide one thing by 2, you have to divide everything by 2. So these will cancel out and just become 1y. And then on the other side, so I'll do that over here, I got 1y equals, now negative 5 over 2x. I would just keep this in fraction form. So I'd leave it as negative 5 over 2. And then 8 divided by 2, you can go ahead and simplify though, because 8 divided by 2 is obviously just 4. So now I'm in slope-intercept form, and I can graph this. So I'm going to start with my intercept, which is positive 4. So I'm going to go up 1, 2, 3, 4. Slope is negative 5 over 2. So that's rise over run again. So if it's negative, I'm going to go down and to the right. So I'm going to go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2 spaces from my intercept. Then I'll do one more point maybe. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over 2 there. If the slope's negative, you could also go up and to the left. So I could go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and left 2. Okay. But yeah, I got enough get some points here, so I'm going to draw a line through them, sketch a quick line through them, draw in some arrows, and I'm done. So if you wanted to, you could have also made an XY table. Just keep in mind, depending on the points you pick, you might get some fractions or decimals, which is fine. You could still graph them, but it might not be as convenient. So if the quickest way probably is just to put it in slope-intercept form, but it's up to you. Okay, so then last here I got a couple special cases. So this first one I've got y equals -4. So believe it or not, this equation is actually still in slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. It just happens to be that the slope of this line is 0 because there is no mx part. The m must be 0. So it's just y. So the b, or the intercept, is -4, but the slope is 0. So you're going to go down to -4, and remember, if something has a slope of 0, slope of 0 means it is a horizontal flat line. Slope of 0 means it has no, it doesn't rise at all. So it will just be a horizontal line down here at y equals -4. So basically, whenever you have y equals, it'll always be a horizontal line. So like, for example, if I had y equaled 2, that would be a horizontal line up here at y equals 2. Okay, so y equals is a horizontal line. X equals then is a vertical line. If x equals 3, it's kind of a special case because you can't write it in slope-intercept form in this case, because it's going to be a vertical line, which actually means that if you remember, a vertical line has an undefined slope. So with an undefined slope, you can't put it as y equals. You can't put it as slope-intercept form, because slope-intercept form, you need to have a defined slope. But if it's x equals, it's pretty easy to graph. X equals 3 means you go over 3 and you just draw in a vertical line. So x equals 3 looks like that. And that's the case no matter what you have if it's x equals. So like if I had x equals -5, for example, you just go backwards 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you would draw a vertical line at x equals -5. So just keep in mind, y equals horizontal line, x equals vertical line.